is episode 3 of the Kitchen Bros Comic Book Podcast, Space Edition. Episode 3 of the Kitchen Bros Comic Book Podcast, live in space. As you can see, first special guest, David Branstetter.
Welcome. Hey, thanks. Kitchen Bros Podcast. Still honored, sir.
That's what we want to talk about. You're saying you like that we never have any idea what we're talking about at the beginning of the snowball, so it's something interesting.
Yes.
We'll let you start the snowball.
But how can I, actually make that observation based off of only 2 examples?
That's what I'd like to know.
We could have got lucky.
I don't know. I guess it should be like a scripted format. You got to hit these top points, and then because I watch a lot of daytime television with the kids.
Yeah, we're not daytime television.
Not even close.
So let's start about the essay that you wrote.
Essay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, quick summary of it.
Quick summary is that independent comics are cool, and you should read them because it's invested. The artists are invested in what they're doing, and I can cut this part out.
No editing.
Yeah, we'll edit it.
Yeah. The artists are invested in what they're doing, and it's a full, self-contained story, and it has a beginning, middle, and end. And that's something that comics, corporate comics, just keep the ball rolling. That's all their point is. It's not artistic integrity. It's not about.
So you don't like Before Watchmen?
Yeah, that's.
Or Death of Superman?
I did like Death of Superman as a kid. That was pretty cool.
You liked his resurrection?
Yeah.
And Cyborg Superman?
And then
the only thing I liked about Death of Superman was the Lethargic Lad comics that did the parodies of it. Because Greg Hyland got
back then.
Really amazing characters out of it that he still uses.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So
I just thought it was like a leftover parody or something from years back. I can't believe he's been doing it that long, though. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I follow the Lethargic Lad. It's pretty good. Very good stuff. Did y'all see the augmented reality cheap gimmick?
Which one was that? What was that?
The walrus was dancing.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And it was freaky because he timed the GIF just right so that you read through it and you're like, da-da-da-da-da, and then you get
We should show that on the screen.
And then you get to the point where it's like dancing, and you're like, what? Did my eyes just... Yeah.
That's funny. I had the same response to that. We were also talking about that, because with corporate comics, essentially all it is corporate trademark that they have to just
They're protecting it because, they'll drag the worst character out and make them popular for, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, they've secured their copyright. They protected their copyright for another 20 years, so,
Yeah.
don't have to worry about somebody pirating off of them or something.
Yeah, the other good point you made is that, which we've also kind of saw, is that there's no new characters in these things because...
I think Eric Larson made that point too, but it needs to be stated. It's like the creativity is just completely gone. It's like every story has a beginning, middle, and end, and some of these characters need to end for new ones to begin, or at least start the story over again for new generations.
Or to add something to the soap opera.
But
because the nice thing about Savage Dragon
is
Eric Larson is constantly killing characters and changing the scenarios and blowing up worlds and setting
he
alternate realities.
He ages.
Aging.
That's awesome. I mean, he's going to be 60 years old or 70 years old when I'm, getting that age or something like that. It's going to be like, this is awesome. This guy is...
The fact you actually get to see his children grow up, that's something that you don't see in any other.
And it means something,
Because he doesn't have to worry about someone else taking over the comic when he's done, and it going on forever. He knows as long as Savage Dragon ages similar to him, then he's all good. We could have a full lifespan of the Savage Dragon.
Then one of the things we're talking about creating new characters, the reason I hate Batman comics is because he's been fighting the same guys for 80 years.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be the world's greatest detective, but all he has to do is say, hey, Riddler.
Yeah. It's the same.
Stupid.
He kind of knows who he's fighting for by now.
He's got an incredible amount of pathos to keep these guys in action, but then try to stop them at the same time.
Yeah.
It seems very contradictory,
The only Batman comics I ever liked were the crossovers. Like the Batman Grendel crossover, because he's going up against someone completely new.
Or
the Batman Predator.
I had the Batman Alien one.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. It was like, wow. And they got rid of it at the end. It was like, oh, did I spoil something?
Oh,
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, the thing is, too, because
it comes back. I think they made another one, so don't worry.
They'll bring it back. Yeah, the other thing why there isn't any new characters is because I think people are, like, creators are kind of have wised up to their,
what
Marvel and
look what they
DC
did with
does.
Deadpool.
So.
It's like Deadpool was like the most generic looking character, right? I'm like, who cares, right? It's just a guy in a red suit, right? And then like 10 years later, it's like one of the most popular Marvel characters, and it's just because somebody said, well, this thing isn't really doing anything. Let's throw some story into it and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
I think they did the same thing with like Spider-Girl and the weird little things in Marvel are now starting to dominate sales. I think.
Well, that's interesting. Whenever you can take a character that isn't that interesting, but then somebody else creates that fan fiction version of them that becomes more successful than the original creation.
Right. I mean, I got to give Rob Liefeld a little bit of credit because like he's still creating, he's still putting out work. When I was younger, I did a parody of Rob Liefeld with Bob Liefeld, but since then I'm going to go, this guy, he's got his own style, and how many people can you say, you look at it, that's them, and there may be some things that are wrong, but the guy is a powerhouse, so I got to give him a little bit of respect.
I always like the fact how dynamic the comics were back in the 90s when seeing X-Force and all that kind of stuff. At least it had the energy. You could tell that
they were
somebody that was excited to be making comic books.
Yeah. It's funny in the 90s, though, there's kind of like the fans got full reign of the comics. You know what I mean? Like it was when you were in high school, those were the comics that you would draw in high school. And it's funny, like looking back on them now, I'm kind of like, there's not much there. But
lunatics took over the asylum.
Yeah, exactly. And then it just became.
Well, I was just looking at some of the art. These guys are professionals, and I go, wow, look at the disproportions of the muscles, and just it's insane.
I didn't see it when I was a kid.
Yeah, you just go, oh, this is exciting, and the bigger the muscles, the more exciting it was.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it, and I go, that's gross, almost. Just
yeah. Those are little heads.
Yeah. That makes me hope that little kids don't see the imperfections in my artwork.
Oh, they
gives me hope.
They're there.
No. Yeah, they will when they grow up. They'll be like, looking back at Spy Guy, I thought that was cool, but his shoes are huge. It doesn't make any sense.
How does he tie his shoes?
Yeah, I never said that about Mickey Mouse.
No, I'm joking. Yeah.
So with Strawman number 10, what's the response been as far as people? I thought it was interesting because last time when we first met you, you were trying to do that think indie stuff.
Yeah.
But now you've kind of taken that concept and stuck it into the comic, and it reminds me a lot of what Dave Sim did with Cerebus and the Spirit
I've
Stories.
always wanted to promote other people. I mean, I always feel like if you give a little bit, somebody else is going to recommend what you're doing, that sort of thing. But, and where I want to differentiate between an anthology and, say, like, because anthologies are a dime a dozen, and what this is doing is that it's specifically targeting things that I like. It's not like, oh, can I accept your artwork, please, because I really, need to fill my book out. It's, I like Spy Guy. I want Spy Guy. I want Possum. And then that's the end of that.
I guess for people listening, too, we should kind of state what the concept is between, or behind Straw Man number 10, right?
Because it's I take my 3 stories, break them up over 8-page, 5-page, and 8-page increments, and then stuff it full of goodness in between. So I've got Kitchen Bros in there. So they contribute a total of 7 pages. So hey, that's pretty cool.
Hey,
yeah.
Look for Strawman number 10.
That's right. And then Tom Shieldy's in there. He's donated some American Barbarian pages. So if you got to check that out. It's cool. And then Columbus's Max Inc. I mean, if you haven't checked out Blink yet, you're really missing something. That guy just he hits a sweet spot. That's about it, isn't it?
It reminds me of Strangers in Paradise, but from the Dave Sim school of comic book making. Like, you can see that kind of influences creeping in.
You can tell. You can go, that's a Dave Sim influence. I mean, every one of us.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, there's little bits here and there, and it's kind of, in a way, I guess it could be embarrassing because, we're trying to be too much like that, but in a way, it's just what we like.
I don't think I think you can see the influence, but I don't think it... as far as art style. Like there's the cross. Anytime you see cross action, you think, oh, Gerard.
Yeah.
Or
especially when it's done.
anytime you see like the opening cover, the little like
creatorial and sort of
yeah, you're like, oh, that's Cerebus. But I mean, as far as stories and things like that, I don't think there's you know what I mean. It's all original stuff, but it is neat to see that you can pick little things that only Dave said.
Well, I guess the similarities are that the fact we're trying to do a big story, like it's a big chunk of story. We're not like, even though say with Spy Guy, I've always been influenced with the Warner Brothers cartoons, where you can take that character, put it into a situation, and let it run its course, and it's a full story. But the fact that it's a soap opera drama where it's not different creators coming in and you can get an entire story out of it rather than just bits and pieces.
And there's things in there that just wouldn't fly in a Marvel comic, and it's not like they're bad. It's just that it's different. It's off the beaten path just a little bit, so that it just makes it, oh, that's real. That conversation they spent way too much time on, but I enjoyed that conversation. And so that's one of those things that kind of happen when you read an indie book.
Yeah, well, that's what I love about indie books is that you really get a piece of the creator in the books. Sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes it's not. But I think
depends
more
on
often,
the creator. There's some artwork somewhere right here that we were talking about.
No, but I think more often than not, I think that's a great thing to have. But you get that. I mean, I don't know if you'd call Savage Dragon indie, but obviously it's.
I think it's more indie than
I would call it that because
I guess it's
he's
a single creator. He's
founder.
done the whole thing. Yeah.
So he's an image founder doing his creator-owned book through his own publishing company.
Yeah,
I consider that.
I don't think image is the enemy here. And I think about
not
who
at all.
the enemy is and who we have to fight against as far as creators. And I think he's done a lot to invite the indie communities. Did the Twisted Savage Dragon funnies? So there's a lot of feel for that.
But I don't even see it as fighting Marvel or DC. Like I don't think there's anything.
But we have to.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with reading a Marvel comic, but I mean, like that group that said it's not Marvel, I don't want it.
Well, that's the reader. That's the reader's mindset, right?
Yeah.
Like
that's what I'm saying.
Now this gets interesting because there's no denying that what's left of the direct market is fueled mainly by Marvel and DC Comics.
Yeah.
And if you take that out of the equation, then the whole thing can crumble.
Right.
And that's what Dave Sim always makes a good point about pointing that out. But the thing is, I do see that in a sense as the enemy because of all the different corporate politics that go involved with kind of pushing everything else out. Like we'd have multiple distributors if Marvel didn't go exclusive with Heroes World for distribution back in the 90s. Yeah. And because of that move, then all the other publishers went exclusive, causing most of them to fail. Now we're left with a monopoly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in a sense, is it too hard to go to a business guy and say, look, I really want to distribute indie comics to Circle K's or convenience stores? How hard would this be to get buy a warehouse, get the book shipped out, and set up a stand at convenience stores? I mean, is that a crazy idea, or is that even possible? I mean, because that's where the people who are going to be like randomly picking up things,
Well, I think that's where the independent community has to kind of pull together and make something like that happen. We were talking about those, those 3-in-1 packs that they would always have in department stores where you get like 3 different Marvel comics. And you see the front one and the back one, and there'd always be a surprise one in the middle. Like, I wonder if there's a way to do that with independent comics, where creators get together. So that
as much as I don't like censorship, though, that if you do something like that, you do need someone making sure that it's all kind of
passes some kind of like
age appropriate, or you know what I mean, because the thing with indie comics is you get the whole spectrum, and sometimes you don't know what you're going to get.
But that's like with what you're doing with Strawman. If you're the one putting it together, then you become the curator of the artwork, and you can say, "Well, I stand behind this stuff."
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not even the artwork; it's the story and the content and stuff like that. You get all sorts of stuff, right? So, but that's the beautiful thing of indie stuff too. And as far as an adult, you can get the full range of whatever you want. Where you're not going to get that with Marvel or DC. They have kind of. Although you know what, I got some Batman comics for my kids to read, and I'm like, I got them home one convention where I brought them home. And I was about to give it to them. I flipped through it. And I'm like, holy crap. I'm like, there's no way I'm letting my kids read
So,
this.
what's the difference between a scene where Catwoman and Batman make love on the rooftop and then, some of the stuff that you see in an indie book?
Well, that's the thing.
How far is that line, this is safe, but this is not safe?
Well,
I wouldn't say
disgusted
DC stuff
by the
is safe.
DC New 52 stuff.
Yeah, I
was
wouldn't say that's
absolutely
safe.
disgusted with what they've done. My daughter's favorite character is Starfire.
I heard about
and what
that.
they did with
Yeah.
that. And then they turned Catwoman to some sort of soft porn. It's crazy.
Yeah.
If people want that, there's better spots to get it.
I comics are
Like
supposed
where?
to be fun.
Where do we get
The internet.
In the end, comics are supposed to be fun. That's what. When you were a kid and you went and bought that comic and you read it and you said, "This is great," that feeling. That's why we still do this, because of that feeling we had 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My best experience yesterday at the convention was there's a kid was probably 10 years old.
Yeah, probably.
And he came by our table and sat down in front and was just reading comics for a good 20 minutes.
Read the first 2 Spy Guys.
I love that. Like that's
great.
Yeah.
More than anything, that's why I do this.
We had that at the Word on the Street too, where the one kid actually made the paper with the kid reading the possum. He was there for.
And that's what drives
For
me
an hour,
crazy
I think,
when people say that, kids don't want to read comic books, they just want to play video games.
Oh,
My experience shows me that's not true.
You just have to give a kid a comic book. The thing is, the kids don't.
What was that story from the school?
Yeah, I went in to do a talk at my daughter's school, and I brought in a bunch of comic books, and I handed them out, and one kid's like, where can I get more of these, right? And I said, they're in the comic shop in Burlington. He looked at me funny. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, like the store where they sell comics in town. He's like, there's a store that only sells comics? And his eyes lit up. He's like, what?
Right, this blows my mind.
Where is this store? Why didn't I know about it?
Right.
Because it's like kids can't just, especially nowadays, they can't just go to the comic shop on their own. They need a parent to take them.
Well, I was doing some research on like a dime. The inflation rate for a dime is about 76 cents. So a book in 1964 was about 10 cents. Mm-hmm. Now it should be 76 cents if you were paying the same price. Now the books are anywhere from $3 to $4, and that pays the comic book store people, the diamond distributors, so that's $2. It pays top talent, so that's another $1. And then the rest goes to printing.
Well, I know if you buy a silver dollar, I think the price is like $33 on that. So a tenth of that is $3.30.
Which is interesting because that shows the difference between precious metals and actual inflation too. It's all out of whack right now.
That's another discussion for another time.
No, but
right?
it is. It's interesting that the silver's held its value, but the
Gold
dollar
is
hasn't.
yeah.
3 something for that is ridiculous compared to.
It's not disposable income. This is honey, mommy's working on 2 shifts, and she can't afford $4 for this new comic, and it just doing that 3 times in a row kills any interest for building readership.
Yeah.
Free comic book day is great, but that's once a year, right?
Yeah.
Now is that where the digital stuff comes in?
I don't think so.
No,
now
I
don't put my kids on the internet. My daughter has an iPod, so she plays with that a little bit. But as far as reading a comic, I don't know.
You know what?
We've talked about this.
Look at all these games and apps and stuff. Kids have here.
Oh, we're sounding like old men now. Watch out.
I know.
These kids these days.
No, but seriously, kids don't get to the comic shop anymore.
Joe Rogan says he likes to read comics on his
you posted that clip. I personally hate it, but kids they're reading stuff on the iPad or iPad, iPod, iPhone, whatever.
Do you think the internet's the way to go as far as building readers?
You can't avoid it. That's the truth there.
And do you think
at this point, people have to actively seek out. If they were like, oh, I read Strawman last year, I'd like to know if there's another issue. The only place they're going to get that is if they see me at Space or on the internet. Mm-hmm. And that's really limiting my audience if I just say only Space, right? Mm-hmm. So I got to think bigger. We've talked about doing a web comic, or that might be the approach, and I think that the key is engaging your audience and letting them know, hey, Strawman's out. Hey, I'm working on Strawman. Hey, just so that build on their conscience.
Yeah.
Even if it's not new content, you still got to engage them and say, hey guys, what's up, and build a community. And one of the things that I liked about Steve Peters' Sparky stuff that he posts on Facebook is that he's like, oh, well, for $5 I'll do this card. Well, okay, I get original artwork for $5. That's a pretty good deal. And then it just propels the story infinitely a little bit longer. And it's a lot of
doing the sketch cards, but he's making a comic.
Right, it's a really fun idea.
$5 a panel.
I like all the stuff he's done. He's been very experimental with comics.
Yeah.
With the chemistry, with the CD.
That's a good comic. He does one panel a day. Yeah, and it's interesting story, lots of text. I mean, it takes a good 20, 30 minutes to read it. It's worth the money if you're going to get it.
Yeah.
How long do you think you're going to do Strawman for?
Well, 12 is the point where I'm going, that's a done story. But I was talking to my wife on the way up here, and I said, I don't think I'm going to stop drawing comics. I love drawing comics. I mean, even if it's wrong, even if I do it terrible, if I'm never famous, I still like sitting at the board and creating. So that's,
It's like we've probably all done it since we were, 6 years old, making comics and characters and stuff. It's just
I think that those are the two of the things. Like, you need the passion and you need the persistence, and you just have to keep playing that game until finally you get called up to the major leagues.
I'll be done when I hit. I mean, if I was to be completely done with Strawman, it'd be somewhere around 50 because I got a lot of ideas. But for a realistic point of view of I'm promoting this and I'm going to spend a lot of money on it, the cutoff's 12. So.
Guaranteed 12. Is that what it is? Yeah. And then after that, you're...
Yeah. I mean, like I told my wife, if I die and I'm working on number 11, you've got notes. Tell some of my friends to finish it. So,
Call up Mike Kitchen.
Yeah.
He'll finish it.
Yeah. Best Strawman issue ever.
Yeah.
So then I want to ask you something about the comment you made of Laughing Over. Where you were saying, I can see Possum going for 20 years, but not Spy Guy.
Well,
and you said you spent 2 days thinking
I thought about the answer.
I cried.
I realized that.
For weeks.
That happened
2 days ago. For 2 days.
I was a little oh man, I insert foot and mouth. But
I find it interesting, seriously, because
I was looking at the background. I think I'm thinking of the background artwork because, Spy Guy takes a lot of calculation, to execute, because you're talking about, specific dialogue, you're talking about specific backgrounds, specific shots, really detailed inking. It's a real thought out package. I'm not going to say that Blair doesn't think things out. It's just
now I'm offended.
Yeah,
you got 2 days to answer that.
Yeah, right. Is that I think Blair works more spontaneously. It's like it's like, okay, this panel I want this, and I think that kind of momentum is easier to keep up from a creator's point of view. So it's not a...
Well, there's no doubt that he laps me for momentum. And
Mike will still be going in 20 years. He might be on issue 5, but he'll still be going.
And I will wait for that day. I'll call the press.
So you think just out of
fatigue,
or just
maybe frustration, or I don't know. I mean, like, what's the end game? You know what I mean? That's
I found that so interesting because I created Spy Guy back in high school, so the character is probably 20 years old as it is, and I haven't lost interest in it. So that was what interested me, is somebody seeing something that I'm not seeing here? I'm curious, and then my analytical brain wants to get in and start dissecting things.
Well, it wasn't because it just seems like a very arduous task to keep up. That's my observation. Whereas I think the Possum, you could change ideas or change approach very quickly. I mean, like, he goes from superhero parody to the wrestling midgets in like one issue, and in his flaw, it's seamless. You don't go, that was weird. It's just it makes sense, and it goes on for 3 issues, and the entire time these guys are speaking, Spanish, and it's funny, But if on paper it's like 3 issues of midgets, no, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
Didn't I buy this last time?
Well, yeah, it's funny because you're talking when you have like 4 comics out and 3 of them are with like midget wrestlers. People are like, oh, is this like a wrestling comic, or is this something like, no. I'm like,
right. I got a lot of that for a good 4 years.
Well, that's because I was doing midget wrestlers for
issues 5 through 7 of Strawman are kind of based on a religious idea, and that's that's a hard comic to sell. It's like, well, in this one, and it's number 6. I mean, who wants to read 6 out of, they want the first issue and all that. And so it's a very hard spot to sell. And you think that's what I realize I spent a lot of time on this subject, and it's not really one that I really wanted to spend. I didn't want the focus of it to be. And, half of the book at that point was on this subject. So you kind of wonder, are people thinking this is what you get bait and switch sort of thing, and that's not what I was going to do. But at some when you get stuck at number 6, you're like, gosh, I got to get out of this issue, and then I've got to do the other fun stuff at the end, and it's kind of.
And I've been thinking that with Spy Guy too, because the last 3 issues are going to be pretty intense. I've got another 2 issues that are pretty intense lined up. It's like I got to get to something that's just crazy comic book fun. So I know issue number 6 is going to be that.
Yeah.
But it takes a long time to get there.
And it's so hard. Like the future self is telling the past self, the issue 6 is going to be great. So keep working, buddy.
Yeah. You got to get there.
Despite what people say.
Damn you, future self.
New taskmaster, future self.
Yeah.
Excuse me. We can edit that out.
No edit. So the one thing I think is interesting with Strawman is, I think you're going to end up going through that sort of Eric Larson process where when you start your original ideas, it's kind of, there's a certain box where you're kind of fitting these ideas in. And Strawman's got some pretty crazy ideas.
Yeah.
But then once you start exhausting those ideas and have to start going on to new ones, like say by the time you get to issue 40, and you have to start coming up with new things.
Well, I have
then it's going to start getting really fascinating.
I don't want to give much away, but I have a catalog of old characters that I created as a kid, and it's like I realize. I mean, you look at the Possum Axe Robot story or Axe Cop, and then you look at the one you did with your kids.
Yeah.
It's like there's a lot of energy in that childhood creation stuff.
So much.
So I'm thinking about kind of incorporating some of my ideas that I had as a kid into the book, and I can't wait to show how it's done. But then that's the future self taskmastering.
Well, there's something about that naive energy, and again, like the '90s comics had that. It's like those high school comics that are now mainstream.
Yeah.
And like both our characters we created back in high school.
Yeah.
But there's something about that naive energy in a comic where that you can't beat it just for the
thing is,
I don't even know how to put it into words.
Yeah, no, the thing is, too, talking about kids and ideas as a kid, I think the ideas are awesome, but the execution is horrible as a kid, right? So if you could take those ideas and execute them well, then you have an awesome...
See, and when I was 20, I said, these are the dumbest things ever. They're just rips off of other characters. And then when I'm about 26 or 27, I'm like, those ideas were kind of cool, and they are unique in their own way. And I just gotta focus more on the uniqueness of them.
Pull the uniqueness of, like Savage Dragon started as a Batman ripoff, didn't it?
Or Speed Racer.
Speed Racer and Batman combination.
And
yeah.
Hulk,
He's not the Hulk with a gun.
I think he got the color scheme.
The color scheme, okay. No. But,
I think another cool thing is like the local flavor that exists in Spy Guy and Possum. Like in one scene, in issue 4, there's snow coming down.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't get snow, especially in Oklahoma. I mean, we get a little bit.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But just the idea that snow would be a part of your life enough that you go, I want snow right here. And, it doesn't seem to be, like, contrived at all. And then, like, you've got, like, Toronto things and, like, Toronto this. And it's like, but you don't see that in the mainstream book. And that's another little weird texture, a nuance that goes on.
The one comic I've started to see it in is Amazing Spider-Man. And, of course, Dan Slott's a New Yorker.
New York, yeah. I mean, Spider-Man's always taken place in New York.
But it's never felt like it.
No, it just was kind of a generic city. I guess you get a little bit of that feel, but not like landmarks.
Daredevil used to have the Hell's Kitchen feel, but didn't Frank Miller live in Hell's Kitchen? Pretty sure he did.
Yeah. There's a Metropolis, Indiana, I think.
Is there?
Or Illinois, maybe. I can't remember, but I've never been there. But I plan on going at some point. They got a huge statue of Superman out front. But
oh, really? I
was going to say, you don't know what you can't base Metropolis off a real Metropolis, but there is one. Mm-hmm. So,
well,
it's nothing
of city.
There's a
I don't know.
they're all real world
Anything else you want to discuss, or should we turn this off to make sure the battery stays?
We gotta get ready for
Yeah.
day 2 of space. It's gonna be hard.
This one was not filmed at midnight. This was filmed at
This will be the only Kitchen Bros podcast that wasn't filmed at 11:30.
We'll see if this works. Alright, so the music should be playing. And this is the end of episode 3, Space Edition.
Wait, give us your website.
Oh, look.
Strong Comics.
Check them out. That's easy.
I may have a new bio on it.
Look for it.
Like, it's all old stuff.
And that's a wrap.
All right. Job, boys.
Wow, I really thought it was on television.
Did ya?